Well, Jeff, Fulton and Gwinnett counties tomorrow will be the focus here in Georgia, and nationwide, federal observers will be at 35 jurisdictions across 19 states watching the polls. When I talked with U.S. Attorney B.J. Pack today, I asked him why Fulton and Gwinnett specifically are on the list and what the Department of Justice will be looking for. Fulton and Gwinnett counties are number 1 and 2 in Georgia when it comes to active voters and are home to nearly 20% of the state's active voters. Tomorrow, U.S. Attorney B.J. Pack says the Department of Justice will be at polls in both counties.
They're not, marked in any way. They don't have any signage or any name tags or anything like that. They pose as kind of regular citizens, and they're there just to take notes and observe things that seem out of line.
Across the country, the DOJ watches polls where additional compliance might be needed with federal election laws because of past issues or because there is reason to believe there could be new issues. The increase of Spanish-speaking voters in Gwinnett County is one example, with federal law now requiring ballots in Spanish and poll workers who can also speak Spanish.
This is the first general election year where they need to provide ballots in additional languages other than English. So that could be a trigger, and also sometimes when we get complaints from community groups, from governments, and those type of factors trigger whether or not we should monitor that jurisdiction.
The DOJ has previously monitored Fulton and Gwinnett and other Georgia counties. Federal law protects against crimes such as intimidating or bribing voters, buying or selling votes, impersonating voters, altering vote tallies, and marking ballots for voters without their input. Federal law also protects the rights of voters to cast a provisional ballot if there are questions about their registration, and they can ask for help voting if they have a disability or are illiterate. If you observe a problem, Pack says to take notes of basic details.
Who the workers were, what the situation is, and so they can just relay that information to us, and then we'll follow up.
And Pack tells me if you come across an issue, do not hesitate to contact the DOJ as well as the Georgia Secretary of State's office or your county election board. The FBI will also have special agents at field offices around the country ready to respond to various election issues. We have phone numbers and emails voters can use to report problems at their polling location inside this story right now on 11alive.com. Jeff.